A memorial service for struggle stalwart Zola Skweyiya will be held at the Tshwane Event Centre today. Skweyiya died in a Pretoria hospital last Wednesday. The former cabinet minister will receive an official funeral. Deputy President David Mabuza is expected to speak at the memorial service. ENCA reporter Samkela Maseko joins us now from Pretoria. Sam, it's really sad to say that a week after we said goodbye to Winnie Madikizela Mandela, this week we're saying goodbye to another struggle hero.
Well, indeed, Shahan, it does certainly look like in the past weeks or so we've been seeing and we've seen two struggle stalwarts belonging to the African National Congress, whom both did serve in government. You'd remember that post-1994, in the first democratic government led by former President, the late Baba Nelson Mandela, Zola Skweyiya was the first public administrations minister in that administration. He went on to be social development minister, but he is a wealth of knowledge in the culture and in the Congress movement of the African National Congress. You'd remember that he did meet with Ubaba Govanimpeki back in Lovedale, where they studied, and also you'd remember that Zola Skweyiya was one of those ANC cadres, and particularly in Umkhonto we Sizwe, who were in Lusaka in Zambia. But I'm now going to speak to Mampumla Williams, who will further expand to us on the struggle stalwarts, and particularly Ubaba Zola Skweyiya and the wealth of knowledge he brought into them in government and in the structures of the ANC. Condolences to you, Mam Pumla, but can you please just speak to us on Ubabu Zola Skweyiya and the impact that he played within government and within your movement, the ANC?
Thank you very much, Samkelo, and good morning, good afternoon, I think, to the viewers. You're correct to say today we're paying tribute to another stalwart, and these are stalwarts we don't celebrate enough. In your intro, you did say what role he played, the military arm of the African National Congress when it was first formed. Tatu Zola Skweyiya was one of those, because they strongly believe that there has to be change, there has to be social justice for the poor of this country. And she has been at it from the 60s when she was involved in the African National Congress. But not only that, when the African National Congress and this country got into the new dispensation in 1994, Dr. Zola Skweyiya was one of those first identified to be the ministers. And I think we want to say the public service that we have today has the hallmarks of Dr. Zola Skweyiya. This is the man who took over in 1994 in a very fragmented public service, but because he had a vision of what the struggle was all about, he actually made sure that he addresses the racial settings of the public service of the time. This is the man who later became a minister of social development, who again had a vision of saying we will not rest until we all have some social protection program for the poor, that whilst we deal with the ills of the apartheid system, we need to have a bridging program for the poor. And I think she can be attributed to the SASA that we have today. So I think for us, some of these memorial services, they afford us an opportunity to really educate young people of the role that some of these stalwarts played to what they are currently benefiting from.
But just on this issue of social security for many South African SASA, it does certainly look like Ubabu Dr. Zola Skweyiya is living at a time where the system is pretty much in trouble, with the former minister not signing contracts purposefully with the CSPS or for the social grants. These stalwarts are leaving you at a time where your government is in somewhat of a crisis along with your organization. What then happens? How do they transmit this knowledge that they have and further guide your cadres that are particularly in government at this point in time?
You're correct that at times we do have glitches, because nobody is saying that we will not have glitches. But I think we want South Africans to be comforted by the fact that the leadership of this government has seen it fit to intervene. I think today we are happy to say that the program is back on track. A number of social grant beneficiaries are going into the centers to re-register for the new program, which is a hybrid. And I think on the 15th of April, we started rolling out the new system, and we are confident that we are back on track on this program because we believe strongly that this is a social program that we cannot afford as government to fail South Africans.
Just on a political question, I had the opportunity to speak to Dr. Zola Skweyiya last year during the Veterans League conference at the Birchwood Hotel. He was one of those outspoken ANC stalwarts who disagreed with the administration then led by President Jacob Zuma. Would you say he lives at a time where his organization is somewhat on a renewal and a growth path once again with the leadership of Cyril Ramaphosa at the helm?
I think you will recall that one of the tasks that the president did was to meet with the ANC veterans, precisely because what the president has committed to do is that we are going to go back on a mission that we had committed to do for South Africans. He has met with the veterans, and I think that Zola Skweyiya was one of the veterans that felt not that they have been failed, but felt that they need to make a contribution should they, in the event that they feel that the system seems to be missing the track in which we had sought to do.
Looking at the presence here right now, do you feel that many South Africans, particularly the youth, and many within the ANC Youth League and the youth formations, do not know the impact and the influence and the role that Dr. Zola Skweyiya played in the liberation struggle, and they're not glorified so much as the likes of Abo Mami Winnie Madikizela Mandela, looking at that he was part and parcel of Governing Mbeki and the so-called ANC A team that went to Robben Island?
I think the memorial service, the challenge with it is that it's during the week. It also gets a bit tricky, but from the numbers that I'm seeing, I think South Africans have made time to come and listen to the tributes that are being played. The numbers are actually encouraging. This is a huge hall, and I think it's slowly getting full. It's not yet 12 o'clock, but I think we are expecting a jam-packed full hall when we commence at 12 o'clock.
Well, thank you very much, Mampumla. Shahan, there was Mampumla Williams. Speaking of the legacy of Ubabu Dr. Zola Skweyiya, you'd remember that he was part and parcel of that generation of MK soldiers who were in Lusaka during the MK days in Zambia. He was also part of that generation that comes from Lovedale with the likes of Ubabu Govan Mbeki, the father to former President Thabo Mbeki. He is part of that so-called ANC Youth League generation of 1944 of Nelson Mandela that changed the political landscape of the country and forced the ANC into an armed struggle. But I'm just going to step out of shot right now and just show you the visuals that are behind me of the hall. It's not yet jam-packed. You also remember that in our history, and particularly within the public domain, we don't particularly talk about Ubabu Dr. Zola Skweyiya. He was part, and he was one of those ANC members and government officials who hardly talked that much. I remember during the conference of the Veterans League with our colleague Xolim Gambi, we spoke to him and how he passionately endorsed the now president of the ANC, Cyril Ramaphosa, saying that Cyril is arguably the only person who can revive and renew the African National Congress and send it back into its growth path that it was once at during the era of President Thabo Mbeki and during the era of Nelson Mandela. He spoke very passionately against the then President Jacob Zuma.
I appreciate it. Our reporter Semkela Maseko at that memorial service in Tshwane.